If you have terms and conditions in your tutoring business, then you are way better off than if you do not. And I want to take this up because it might seem like a thing not needed, or like, well, obviously you trust your students and so on. But time and time again, I see how tutors kind of fall down, or they just make their lives more complicated than it should be because of this. So let's say you start with a student and everything is going well, and suddenly the person starts to cancel um, often. They might cancel before 24 hours, they might cancel last minute. They might say, oh, can we move my slot to another slot? They might not pay on time. All these different things happens, right? And it could be sickness, it could be valid reasons, but there are also sometimes where it's not a valid reason. And then they come to you and then they say, okay, so what are we going to do? And this is where you have your terms and conditions in place. And you can say, okay, well, this is my rules, right? So if it's like, okay, you accept a cancellation 24 hours before and you can move it to another time, or you cannot move it, and then that means something else. What about refunds? If there's a death in the family and they have to go away, what do you do with that? And it's not just for you to make your life easier, it's also for the students, because then they know where they stand and they do not feel kind of taken advantage of. If you might have rules but they don't know it, and then later it'll be like, yeah, but you didn't tell me that I couldn't get a refund, and it just ends up being kind of like unforeseen mistakes and misunderstandings. And then you sit maybe with a bit of a taste of like, I don't like this, and the client as well. Okay. So it's important that you figure this out for yourself. Okay. That you sit down and you say, okay, well, what are my kind of terms on how I build my business? Okay. And that is totally up to you. There are no, well, at least in France, there are no particular rules on this. Okay. So you can see what others do, you can see what fits you well. Okay. But it needs to be written down and it needs to be given to your client, to your student. And the best is that if they sign it, as that they have read it and understood it. And that way, when a situation comes up, then it's like, okay, what are my terms and conditions? I even have had it where it was just the other week. I had something with a student, and then I was talking to my husband about it, and I'm like, yeah, here I'm not really sure because anyway, so it was a bit of a complicated situation. And then my husband said, well, what does your terms and conditions state? And I'm like, yeah, good point. And I went down and I read it, and it was actually super clear because I had worked on this 2 years ago, and I kind of look at it every year to make sure I'm still happy with the setup. And for 2 years now, I have not, or maybe 3, I have not changed them because it fits me well. And when we do the sign up form, when I do the sign up form with the client, then it's in there. It's like it's a whole page, okay, for me today. And I get them to read it and they sign and they say, okay, I've read it and understood it. And by signing, obviously, they agree with it, right? So it's become very simple on how to deal with all these different things, because a lot of the students, they unfortunately do not read all of it, right? And even though in the beginning of the year, I say, okay, here, I literally send them the section and I say, okay, these are the terms and conditions. Please reread them, even though they already signed it on the sign up form. But I make sure that it's like, okay, so just to remind you, this is kind of, the thing. And I still get parents, because I have the child, saying, oh, we're going away for 2 weeks because we are from up north, and we have some birthdays coming up, so our son cannot come. So what happens then? Right? And then I do not have to explain myself, right? I just refer them really nicely. I say, okay, well, here's the part on the terms and conditions that was on the sign-up form. And unfortunately, I do not refund, and so on. So that means that it becomes very easy to handle their questions. They are reassured that, oh yeah, that's right, they might have read it before or whatever, but it's like there's no surprise. Okay. And I do not feel bad for, like, oh, if something happens, what am I gonna do? And I might not remember what I said to the person earlier on. Obviously, I had 3 weeks ago or a month ago, I had an adult student who unfortunately lost her mother. It was in another country, and she's like, listen, I have to go. And I'm like, of course. I mean, it's like, I live in another country than my family, of course. That's very exceptional, right? And I did go over and beyond what my contract says, and I did give her that time off, and the money is not wasted, and so on. So of course you can, be nice, which we want to help people, right? But kind of the standard run-of-the-mill questions about how does it function, you should have that in your terms and conditions. Okay. It just saves a lot of headaches and a lot of questions and a lot of wobble for you and your students. Okay. So if you need any help, let me know if you need help with the terms and conditions, but do sit down and figure out, well, where are your limits? When do you refund? When do you not? When do you accept the cancellation? When do you not? If they cancel and it's okay with you, how are you gonna make that up, right? All these different things you need to put into your sign-up form or contract, whatever you would call it. And that way it's clear from the get-go. And even if it's a student that you're only going to have for 5-10 hours or something like this, you might do a more simple version, but they need to have that, and they need to have read it and signed it, because that way there's no confusion. Okay. So go back and look at your terms and conditions, see how they are, see if they are the way you want it, and also look at the viewpoint of the students. When they read it, it's like, okay, would that be something that is not too difficult, right? Because we might have it all easily in our head, but then when we give it out in writing, it has to still be a simple thing, and it has to be simple to follow, simple to understand, and not like a million rules about if this and that and the other. Try to make it really simple, because that way you also get rid of other confusions and other misunderstandings. Okay. So have a look at it and see if you're actually happy with them, and if not, change it. And if you are, well, then well done. You are good to go. Carry on. And that's all, really. Okay. So have a look at it, and I will see you in another video.